Logie, how many years now behind the wheel of something in a left-hand circle?
I reckon it's got to be about 47.
Holy cow. So what, you're 60 now? You started when you were 13?
Yeah. I was a late starter and I'm 75.
How young are you now?
75.
Wowzers. Mate, you don't look a day over 60.
Well, someone else told me that, but thank you.
It must be that good living down in Victoria.
Oh, it is, yeah. Yes, it is, yeah. All the cold weather keeps you.
How many years in Super Sedans?
I reckon about 35.
Wow.
Something like that, yeah.
You raced in such a golden era, Pete, of Super Sedan racing.
Yeah, yeah. We at times, even just the club shows around Victoria, we could get 40 to 45 cars. And some good cars too, not just all shit heaps. So
yeah.
Good stuff amongst them, yeah.
Obviously, I sort of got to meet you in the late 80s, early 90s when you came over to Perth and ran over there. And every state had its big pack of superstars, didn't it? When you went to Queensland, you knew you were in trouble. When you went to New South Wales, you knew you had a fight on. Even SA was super stout.
Yep. Yeah, because you had, some of them, I can't, bloody good mate of mine, what's his name? Stevie Stewart.
Yep.
Yeah, it's hard to remember some.
Oh, mate, when you go through South Australia, you know, John Hughes and, you know, Gary Reuter, I mean, they had the two-car team, Robbie Marchant, they had the Corvette Stingrays back in the day. You know, Chris Blunden was an Australian champion, the Commodore. Like, you can go on forever. And there were so many different body styles too.
Oh, yeah. Well, we had a lot of just normal-looking cars, and Gavin McEachran had, I reckon, the best Super Sedan that was ever made.
Really?
Yeah, his was fantastic. I should get a photo of it.
What was it?
It was a Commodore.
Okay.
Yeah, and it just looked like a road car.
Because there was a real push for that. I remember, when Commodores and Falcons, Benny Ludlow went to a Falcon, TG went to the Commodore. There was a real push to go Australian recognisable bodies, wasn't there?
I was a little bit disappointed when they started changing it back again. I thought that was a really good era we come through, and then before I give it away, we just started changing back to the more like a late model style body, and yeah.
Because Trans Ams and IROCs, in particular, in that 80s, period, were the norm, weren't they?
Oh yeah. No, that's right. Yeah.
I remember when they swapped to Commodores, the big problem was the window pillar, because Tony Giancola looked like he was sitting in the back seat, because just the way that the body worked with the seat position, window pillars were a problem. But what was your most successful car?
Well, every car that we had, we actually won quite a few races with it, but they were all built by my son, Darryl.
Yeah,
from
right.
the ground up, yeah. I remember buying, I don't know, he would have been about 16, and we bought a car out of Queensland, and when we got it home it was stuffed. It had a bent front, bent back.
Yep.
So he's rebuilt the whole thing and done all the stub axles, made a jig, built them all himself, and he would have been 16 years old.
At 16, building a sedan that would race against the best in the country.
We won with it, yeah. And that's all we ever had, was cars that he built.
Wow.
And we didn't, back in them days, you didn't go and buy stuff either. Like, you buy the diffs and motors and stuff like that, obviously. Yeah. But all the other running gear was just all built in the workshop.
The beautiful part about the rivalries in Australia back then as well. I mean, when I lived in South Australia for a while, and Speedway Park was huge for saloon cars, they were called, I think, before super sedans. But you couldn't be a Gary Reuter fan and be a Kerry McCarthy fan. You had to be one or the other.
No, you're right. Yep.
And I remember there was, Tony Orlando and, those sort of guys as well, and Terry Gainan from up in the territory, I think. So every state had a superpower. What was the toughest for you to travel to, do you think?
The toughest racing?
Yeah, the toughest state groups that you... Was it really?
Queensland, yeah. Yeah, because you had to race against that bloody Les line. I think I'm just getting off the medication now after that.
Well, if Gabby didn't talk your ear off before you got on the track, Leslie took care of it when you got there.
Oh, yeah, he took care of business every night.
I vividly remember that the John McGeorge car, just stunning looking Falcon. I think it had Shell as a sponsorship. I remember Paul O'Neill rolling over to Perth with the immaculate black number 5. Now, didn't you say that he impacted a bit on how you presented the cockpit?
Oh, yeah. No, because we had the same body style. So after looking at his car, we did change ours quite a bit. Because we wanted that look.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, no, it was a good car, yeah.
Was it a close community, Logie, back in the day? And were guys having a beer after the races, or?
I think they did, but I never drank much. But yeah, no, they did. Yeah, no, it was good. Even old Ronnie Pine and stuff like that. You always had a yarn with him and got on good with him. But probably never got on so good with John. He was a bit wild for me. But
well, those two didn't get on either. So between the pair of them, for some reason Wayne Randall's name just popped into my mind. The Turbo RX-7, that thing was hectic.
Yeah, I'd put Wayne Randall as just one of the best, but just one of the best consistent racers.
Yep.
Clean racer, nice bloke.
Yep.
It just all went together with Wayne, yeah.
I know that John Singleton lives up this way these days, but Singo was a hell of a racer and an Aussie champ back in the day. Back when Perth had, Peter Brook was racing up there as well. Big bad Bert Vosbergen. Have you ever encountered anyone in your life like Bert?
But look, Bert would have to be the worst bloke you probably could race with, but I can tell you now, the biggest gentleman you'd ever meet outside of Speedway. But put him anywhere near a race car and you didn't want to talk to him. But I tell you, mate, I got on really, really excellent with Bert Vosberg, yeah.
How many title wins? How many state title wins?
For me, I think I've won about 20.
Wow.
I really don't know.
So you've never wanted to know that?
Oh, well, I guess it'd be handy, but who cares? I've done it and I enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
What's been the standout moments for you? Is it having cars that your son built to win championships? Is it the rivalry? Is it your family that's raced with you?
Well, yeah, really enjoyed having my two boys with me. I've got Wayne here today with me.
He gets around all right in a wingless too.
He's okay, yeah, no, he's good. And Daryl had a wingless for a while, my oldest boy.
Yep.
The 16-year-old one now, which is 50-something years old.
Wow.
But all that's been good. But look, just a short story, but one of the highlights of my career was we built a brand new car. And on the way to Warrnambool, Daryl says to me, he said, Dad, how good would it be if we could go out and win the first heat? So we got to Warrnambool and I drew 13. We had 13 cars in the heat and I drew 13. And he had a down look on his face and he said, oh, it's not going to happen now. Well, I won it.
Is that right?
Yeah, that just gave me that much inspiration. I just had to go and do it for him. And that's one of the highlights of my racing, even including the titles.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these big races, you've got to have the car right. When the car's right, your job's easy. So anyone that wins a big race don't necessarily have to work as hard as what you would running third or fourth or fifth some nights. Yeah.
Random question: did you ever use a mud eater?
Oh yeah, loved them.
I think I remember you being in the 6 car with a mud eater on.
Oh yeah, no, loved them. Yeah.
They were pretty radical at the time. On a heavy track, they were terrible, weren't they?
Yes, they were.
Like Bunbury and places like that, where the clay was just globby.
Yeah.
They probably seized up occasionally, but you swore by them.
Yeah. I even considered trying to, because these have got a battery in them, these wingless, and I considered setting one up in that. And we had the air blower too. Used to blow fresh air.
The old pool filter. Yep.
She was good for another 20 laps, I reckon.
What was your favourite Victorian track?
Don't have a favourite track. Love going to new tracks.
Yep.
Just absolutely loved it here last night. Didn't quite get it right, but I didn't get it really wrong either. It's sort of, it's there, but...
Tell me your age again, Logie.
75.
So there's kids out there flipping their A55s off out there, a very juiced up racetrack. It's very physical. You're 75 and you loved that track last night.
Oh yeah, no, that was fast and it was just good fun. We were too tight. But we were one of 6 or 7 that went under 14 seconds.
Yeah.
I reckon that was only one lap.
Doesn't matter. Favourite track in New South Wales? From a sedan point of view?
I don't have favourite tracks.
Alright, so say some of the ones that you remember loving.
Brisbane was good.
Yep.
Yeah, I like Brisbane.
Yep.
Rockhampton because, I went to Rockhampton, we done a 75 lapper there. And
75 laps.
And Leslie lapped me.
Wow.
And man, he gave it to me, I reckon, for 2 years, and we went back for the Australian title and burned him off and won it.
That's for revenge.
Yeah, I was never going to let that happen again.
What about Newcastle? That had to be a tough place to win at, particularly with the Pine Boys and Alan Baker and John Brown and those guys.
I raced there once.
Is that all?
Yeah, only raced there once, and didn't perform too good, to be honest. We might have made the feature, I just can't remember. That was an Australian title.
Okay.
And John won it.
Parramatta.
Parramatta weren't kind to me. Done a few good laps around Parramatta, and I led it a race there. It was 1,500 to win, I think, and got put out with it too noisy with 2 laps to go.
Oh.
Yeah, they're the sort of nights you don't sort of talk until about halfway home.
Tasmania.
Yeah, won that big one over
Grand
there,
Prix.
the Grand Prix. Another, I led it the next year for 46 laps, and a sump guard fell off of Darren Kane's car and I run over it, and that put me out of that. And they were about 15 grand to win back in them days too. They were good paying
There's
shows.
an amazing speedway culture in Tassie, Logie. Like one of the best. When you go down there, they live and breathe it.
Now, when you talk about sedan classes back in the day, they were the good cars.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely, you would definitely, old Neville Harper.
Yeah.
Oh, a mongrel, not
Yeah.
slow, but a mongrel to race. He was tough.
Peter Aylett was an absolute superstar around that place. Like
A good clean racer again. He was just very consistent racer. Peter was, he weren't a mongrel. Yeah.
when you talk about the Harpers too, it's incredible what Callum is doing these days. Wins in both late models and super sedans, and you know Jared absolutely lives and breathes it. They're living a dream like you are with your boys.
Yeah. Like when you got all that background and all that experience, the kids have got to go all right. They just got to.
Americans. Who was the best American you raced?
Charlie Schwartz.
Boy, what a
Charlie
tough critter he was.
Yeah, Charlie Schwartz. Yeah. They come to Rosedale, and I run the feature there against Charlie Schwartz. No, Rodney Combs.
Yep.
Rodney Combs. And I think Big Ed Wilbur was there too. I'm not sure.
What a character.
Yeah.
He knew how to put a show on, didn't he? He was all about the show.
Mate, he used to stir the shit out of a lot of us. We didn't know for a while, the first couple of matches, test matches I'd done, I didn't know how much showman he was, but we thought that's the way he was, but it was just all show for him, yeah.
Did you think you'd still be going around in circles at 75 years of age, Pete?
No, when I was 50, I sold the Super Sedan for Terry Reichstein.
Yep.
And I never missed the season, but we went to a local speedway, and Wayne said to me, because Wayne weren't racing, he said, Dad, he said, if you build a Ford engine, we'll do that limited sprint car racing. So of course I did, and it got me going again, so we raced limited sprint cars for a while. I won a state title in them too, yeah.
As you get older, Pete, you're supposed to think more to go the other way, you know, like to go from the open wheel to sedans. That's the way it generally works, right? With age comes the cage, you know, you can, because sedans are a very safe category, and so are wingless, but you're a little bit more exposed.
Yeah, look, I have suffered some pretty good injuries in wingless, and I'm suffering one now with the left arm and the shoulders pretty frozen up and give me a bit of trouble. I've got to go and get a couple of shots in it next week to get me going again.
What do you do after this? Is this really it, or are you going to do some skids next year?
I went to Ballarat the other week, and I was watching Amcus race.
Yep.
And I thought, shit, because they're getting it like a race car now. But,
Yep.
But then you ask around, and they haven't got enough numbers. So you really need at least 30 cars to race with. Because I could not go to a race meeting where it was 5 or 8 or 10 cars. You just feel like you achieved nothing.
Well, and that's what wingless has always been so good at, isn't it? We're 72 cars here. Anywhere in Victoria races at least 30 or 40, isn't it?
Well, bigger numbers than that. We went to a small show at Ballarat the other week, and it had 30 cars, and but normally we'll run with 40 or 50. And,
do you still love this as much as you ever did, Pete? The thrill of driving it?
No.
Yeah.
No, and that's why I'm considering stopping, just not game enough to put it in where you know you should, and just stay on the throttle that little bit longer and that. I still go all right, but you just know you're coming to the end. You just know.
Makes me sad that these young guys that are sort of all pitted next year really have no idea who they're lining up against, because you're one of the absolute speedway legends of our sport, and I've been so thrilled to watch you over the years as an Aussie champ, as a state champ, and just purely running your old number that you always ran. And You're an icon of the sport, Pete. Don't forget that you put a huge amount into this sport, and we're all very proud to say that we saw you race.
That's really good, and I really appreciate it, but I get a little bit embarrassed when people...
I know. Too bad. You're a bloody badass, Logie. Good luck tonight.
Thanks very much. Yeah.